Thanks everyone for joining. Pleasure to meet you.
Screen up and running. There we go. Got 140 people. Awesome. I think we're off to a good start here. So welcome everyone to our webinar today, Decoding OWASP LLM Security Verification Standard. I'm so excited to be doing this webinar together with Ads and Elliot. My name is David. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lakera. We are working with really some of the most exciting brands around the world to help them adopt Gen AI securely. Uh, Many of us know us for this little guy on the top right here called Gandalf, a game we launched last year that has really made it into everyone's hand as the go-to AI security resource. Give it a go. There are 8 levels of insane fun around Gandalf that expose you not only to the world of Gen AI, but also the security vulnerabilities. And our team has also recently launched our AI Security Hub, which includes valuable playbooks and handbooks around AI security. And we've launched a 7-day email course on AI security that has been extremely popular over the last couple of weeks. With me, I've got Ads Dawson, a good friend and also a member of the OWASP team. Ads, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet you. As David said, I'm Ads. I'm a security engineer at Cohere. I work with the core team on the OWASP Top 10 for LLM Applications project. Originally, I kind of started out as a network engineer, delved into network pen testing, then got into application security, and kind of now in a crazy fork of LLM applications, which is super fun. Yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you, Ads, for joining us today. I'm always super inspired by the work that you're doing and look forward to speaking more
Thank
about
you.
today. Elliot, we've been doing a lot of work together over the last couple of weeks and months as well. So it's glad to have you join the webinar today. Do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Dave, and yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, I mean, my name's Elliot, and I'm a security researcher over at Snyk, and yeah, my background is kind of similar to Ads in the fact that I was pen testing for a long time, and then internal security engineer, and now in the security labs team at Snyk. If you don't know Snyk, we're a kind of a developer security platform, and yeah, we kind of look at a lot of things, or we have a range of products for building, security into the software that you build. And in the security labs team, we look at various topics that kind of influence developer security. And obviously, with kind of the emergence of LLM based applications, this is kind of why we decided to take a look at this. And yeah, that's kind of me and Snyk. Thank you.
Awesome. It's great to have you here as well, Elliot. We are not only a happy customer of Snyk, but also big fans of your work. So also looking forward to this conversation today. Ads, maybe to kick things off with you, I think one of the most profound projects in the sort of AI security, or maybe even security space more generally over the last couple of months, has been around the OWASP top 10. And you in particular, together with a fantastic group of people, have put in a great amount of work into figuring out how we should think about AI security at a macro level. What are maybe some of the most common vulnerabilities that we should be looking out for? Can you give us a quick update on where we are with the project, what is happening right now, and sort of what's coming up next?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. It's actually a great segue. So, like you said, the iOS Top 10 for LM applications, Is a project. We have a phenomenal group of contributors and a great community. I do encourage you to please join us. Cass put the link in the chat window there. Effectively, yeah, we are looking to arm developers, security enthusiasts, security engineers, CISOs with a vulnerability checklist, very similar to the OWASP Top 10 for web applications when we're integrating LLMs within applications. As they create, they have similar vulnerabilities and threats, but they also pose new vectors from this new set of technology. Given given that LLMs have become so big within generative AI, it was pretty much just like a no-brainer for us to create one about about LLM applications. A great segue is our V2. We're actually kicking off on April the 15th. We've got kind of a mini roadmap going at the moment. So now is a great time that I encourage you to be involved. Make your voice heard. If you have any suggestions, you want to be involved, then please do get involved in that. We'll be discussing replacing vulnerabilities, updating, adding, extending, and any way of enhancing. So everyone's welcome, and feedback and input is like hugely appreciated.
That's awesome. Who should join that group? Who would you encourage in particular?
For sure. So I mean, to be honest, starting myself, security engineers who are working at companies who are looking to include generative AI in the form of LLM applications, which to be honest is a very, which is kind of a rocket ship at the moment for most companies. LLM developers, application developers, I would say definitely the kind of people that I would think about, but the list is not to a subset of people. It's aimed at like a very broad audience, primarily developers.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I also saw you posted something about our RSA conference next month. Let us know for all the people that are going to be there. What's on the menu? What can we expect coming from your direction?
Yeah, super pumped. Thank you very much. So we very, very recently, there's some great contributors within the group who have organized and aligned with the OWASP group that we're actually going to be going to RSA and doing a red teaming summit panel. There's a few other events going on. I personally shared a little LinkedIn post last night, but we will have like an official post done from our LinkedIn page soon by Aubrey, who will provide a lot of information. It's still pretty fresh, but it is exciting. So, if anyone's in the Bay Area, please hit me up. I'd love to meet you, and yeah, definitely would love to attend.
Yeah, I can just second that. So Lakera is going to be at RSA 2 in May. And
awesome.
I mean, Ads, you and I are going to meet up for coffee and everything else for sure. Anyway, but anyone that wants to meet up and have a chat around OWASP, reach out to Ads and anything AI security on the Lakera side, feel free to reach out to us as well. I want to start segueing into the LLM-SVS standard and some of the amazing work that you've done, Elliot. But Ads, maybe from your perspective, could you maybe give us, I guess, some framing around the work you've done at OWASP and sort of how it relates, how it segues into some of the work that Elliot is going to talk to us about in just a second?
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, natively, as per its intent, the OWASP Top 10 list that we currently have is a broad audience, but the idea is to cater to the many. We're primarily looking at developers, but what we're providing from like a list perspective is these are like the top 10 vulnerabilities that we're currently seeing exploited in the wild, or companies or people most care about may be the highest risk. That doesn't apply to everyone. It's not a subset, or it's not limited to. So therefore, the list can only be so verbose without being, it has to be realistic. And to do that, obviously, we want to try and keep it concise and not overload with much information. So we kind of, I don't want to downplay it by saying we're at a high level per se, because we do, go into vulnerabilities and mitigations and stuff, but it's not like a reference where if you were a developer, you could read this. It's telling you that you should, look out for these things, but it's not saying like exactly how you would do it. I guess is probably the key gist of that. Kind of almost like an ingredients list to an actual recipe. It's it's corny. We discussed this yesterday. I'm going to throw it out there, but that's the way I kind of look at this from like a very kind of high level perspective. We're not an ingredients list. We're a bit more than that, but that's how they definitely can complement each other.
I love that. And then maybe sort of if we take that ingredients list, let's just stick with this for a second.
Who doesn't love food? Yeah.
Exactly, or coffee for that matter. But Elliot, how does give us a quick sort of intro into the LLM-SVS project, and if what Ads just mentioned is sort of the ingredients part of it. What's the part that we are contributing with LLM-SVS here? Give us a quick intro on what it is and what we're looking for here.
Yeah, no, thanks. That was a great introduction there. And basically, I mean, I don't know if anybody here is familiar with kind of the original OWASP top 10 for web applications, and then like how the OWASP ASVS, which is the application security verification standard, helps to complement the OWASP top 10. And basically, I mean, yeah, we have these great awareness documents that are kind of the top 10 that make it like very easy to understand what these kind of issues are at a higher level. But then when it actually comes to implementing robust and secure applications that are resilient to those kind of top 10 attacks, it's a little bit trickier to kind of take that knowledge and make sure that we have kind of a consistent approach for different developers to implement this in kind of a way that's sound across the board. And this is where the ASVS, which is the application security verification standard, came in. And basically, the LLM is, oh, sorry, the LLM-SVS is the counterpart for the ASVS and what this is to the OWASP top 10. But we're focusing on the unique LLM elements and how this kind of relates to any application that is either integrating with an LLM, is building an LLM itself, or just has any other kind of components that are LLM powered. And kind of, the LLM-SVS follows the same structure, although we have a completely different team. And this was, first produced out of some security research that we were doing within the Snyk security labs with support from yourselves. And with this, we were working with a couple of partners who are building LLM-based applications to understand how these are being built in practice, what are the kind of security challenges for kind of implementing and building a robust based LLM application, and then kind of building out this list of requirements that's basically designed to be an application security standard for LLM applications, that follows the leading practices and allows development teams, security engineers, or penetration testers to kind of go back and or design a secure, robust application, but then also to kind of audit this process and think about, okay, did we do a good job? And when it comes to like testing to make sure that, okay, these things have all been done. And then, we're completely based on GitHub. So, I mean, it's a community-driven project. Submit an issue, open a pull request, and we're looking for more involvement from the both security and AI communities.
I think it's us. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, I actually want to just shout out the ASVS as well, which is a phenomenal guide, which anyone who's just, web applications as well, I would suggest you check that out.
Yeah, I definitely love the open nature of all of the initiatives that we are discussing here. Would just love to double click on this standard in just a second. But Elliot, when you work with these partners on building LLM applications in practice, the part that you just referred to, what's maybe a more surprising insight from a security perspective for you personally that you've obtained over the last couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's like not to be cynical, but I mean it's not as mature as kind of the current AI, the current web application security kind of level that we see, at least from like what I've personally seen. I mean, like for example, with kind of typical attacks like SQL injection, I mean, we have very clear ways of separating data and code that make it very easy to get this right. And like kind of when we look into kind of this AI LLM space that's very rapidly evolving, we're still not there yet. And like, I mean, this is where, I mean, we have the typical prompt injection, and it's kind of very difficult at the moment to actually keep this data separate. So we're kind of going from like maybe the early stages again. And yeah, we need to just make sure that we're cautious of this and strive to kind of drive this forward.
That makes a ton of sense. Definitely time to be cautious. I think also quite an exciting time where you actually get to work on setting some of these standards that will define how we think about the security world over the next years and decades. I would love to double click just on the standard for a minute. Elliot, maybe I know that there's this concept of sort of maybe actually we go to this one here first, or up to you. But I would love for you to take us through some of the contents of the standard. I like this idea of having these different security layers and then the control objectives. So happy to drive this either way. But would love to just have a quick overview of what we have in the standard.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think maybe if we just go back to the other slide and I can introduce this. So, I mean, this is just kind of an extract from the document. And we have various control groups, which we'll go to in a moment. But this one is, control group 5, which is relating to how do we build LLM application, or how do we integrate securely within to the LLM components themselves. So kind of this component basically has sets of specific actionable requirements that we can follow and build these into our user stories and our non-functional requirements to kind of allow us to build those robust applications. And then we have these kind of L1, L2, L3. And then if we go to the next slide, kind of this is where this ties in. And these are the security verification layers. So, I mean, obviously, it's one thing having a huge kind of standard of requirements, but it's unrealistic to think that we can just give these to engineering teams and not overwhelm them, or not even just about overwhelming, but also many of these requirements, they may be applicable to certain applications, but not be applicable to kind of other applications. So the security verification layers here kind of take a risk-based approach here, where kind of level 1, this is applicable to every application. So this is the bare minimum of what you should be doing to make sure that you have kind of some level of assurance that you're building a secure LLM-based application. And then kind of we have the second layer, and this is where most applications will fall into. So this is kind of anything that's going to be exposed to the internet, anything where you're kind of processing kind of some sensitive data, and doing this as part of your normal kind of workflows. And then we have kind of the third level, which is kind of, I mean, if you're doing anything with governments or really sensitive data such as healthcare data, banking, financial data, then maybe you should be considering kind of the higher level of assurance. And obviously, this is going to be more costly to implement, but in some cases, this may be required.
That's super insightful. I often I spend a lot of time thinking around sort of what defines risks for Gen AI applications, and I think there are various like interesting dimensions to look at, from like interfaces to levels of integration. There's certainly something to be said around data access. So how would I sort of categorize my application into one of these like three layers or three levels? Would it be fair to say that the dimensions that I just mentioned around sort of data access, is like a way to think about this, or do I think in terms of use cases, like I have a chat bot that interacts with the world? Help us understand a bit how we would categorize the applications that we're looking at or seeing out there in the world into one of these three categories.
Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of like a difficult concept in general because I mean, every company is going to have their own risk appetite in general. But kind of we would suggest kind of looking at what you're well, what are we building and doing at least a very high level kind of threat model. So just understanding kind of what we have, what data we're going to be processing, what systems are we going to be interacting with, and then having the developers kind of go through looking to see what like we have some extra guidance in the document itself around kind of the different levels that we have, which is kind of yeah maybe helpful as well. And just looking at this and weighing up kind of like, are we doing anything that's like extremely sensitive? Like, is there any healthcare data? Like, could people physically get hurt if something in this application goes wrong? And kind of these will be the main differentiators between whether or not something is kind of a moderate or really a high assurance. And also you can tie this back into like whether or not you're in a regulated industry. So I mean, maybe you already have kind of these risk profiles based on kind of compliance obligations that you already have. And then this could help you weigh up which level you might need.
Love that. Thanks for these insights. It's the standard consists, from what I understand of like 8 different, sort of controls or items. What provided input? How did you come up with this list? Is this because from the work that you've done that you mentioned earlier in terms of looking at sort of practical LLM or Gen AI applications? How did you walk us through the process of like how you came up with this list of amazing items?
Yeah, so basically, like we started out by looking and working with um, yeah, companies that are building LLM-based applications and going through threat modeling exercises with them to kind of understand how everything fits together and all of the different components and where things could go wrong. And then use this to kind of a higher level kind of build out what could go wrong and like into put things into kind of high level categories that kind of make sense. And it took a little bit of back and forth, and this is by no means perfect at this stage. I mean, this is a an evolving document, and yeah, these will continue to evolve at least until we get to a stable like version 1. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's from kind of just looking at the applications, the different frameworks that we have, and yeah, trying to put things into something that makes sense and is easy to follow, basically. Um,
Mm. That's awesome. And I think the content here already in what you refer to as an early version is very impressive. So definitely see that a lot of work has gone into this. I think there's a great summary, and you mentioned here, Elliot, in terms of like also how to contribute to this project. Anything you would like to add here?
Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of go over like the kind of summary of what we have there. I mean, the project aims to provide security requirements for building, um, well, for even from designing secure LLM-based applications to developing them, testing them, and operating them. We have a whole range of requirements to help you do this in a secure and robust way. The standard itself is, as I've said, hosted on GitHub. It's written in Markdown and tracked in GitHub, which is really nice because we can see kind of makes it easy for tracking the changes. We can see who's changed what, why they've done it. It makes it easy to translate. And then also it makes it easy to kind of add additional kind of scripts to this. So, I mean, at the moment, we have the Markdown files, which are the source, and this will, you can run some scripts and it will generate the PDF. But then, we're also working on adding in output for CSV files JSON files and XML files. And this could be maybe like depending on how you would personally like to work with the LLMSVS. Can we just go back one slide? And then yeah, covers the requirements. So it's not just about kind of if we're building an LLM. It's like any kind of system that's integrating or part of an LLM based kind of ecosystem. So there could be many things that go wrong at kind of different levels. So we're aiming to address kind of all of these. And then we'll also be adding kind of mappings to various other frameworks and standards. So we'll be making sure that like, okay, this requirement is addressing this step of the LLM top 10, adding in the CWE mappings, referencing various cheat sheets, which will make it kind of easier to implement some of these requirements. And then one important thing that's just to note that this is not a replacement for the ASVS. So I mean, like if you're like we're only covering the components that are relevant to LLM security, but if you have another component that's also interacting with the database, like following the LLMVS isn't going to help you mitigate against SQL injection, for example. So like this is a standard specifically for LLM based requirements, and it's to complement the ASVS.
That's awesome. And we also have a little segue here back to the LLM top 10 to continue the train of cheesiness. Not sure I would call it like that, but would it be, safe to say that with the top 10, we have sort of the ingredients, and then with the LLM SVS here, we have somewhat a set of instructions of how to turn that into, I guess, a holistic security picture. Would that be an accurate way to think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree there.
I think it gives audible action items as well from like a developer perspective as well, which is good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Now, in terms of the project itself, I understand it's still sort of early, Elliot, but any sort of kind of like challenges that we should anticipate, or challenges more generally as teams adopt security for AI. Would love to hear your perspective, just given how much thought you've put into the topic.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest challenge will be kind of you look at this and think that you have to be compliant to absolutely every requirement in the list. And I mean, this is not the case, and it's not necessarily the intention. I mean, it's there to make it easy for teams to build robust applications and make sure that the applications that they have built are secure. So kind of like when you take the list, I mean, make sure that you appropriately set the ASVS level, and then also go in and look at the various requirements, because some of them may not be applicable to the application that you are building, even if it's in the same kind of security layer. So like, don't feel that you would have to necessarily apply or implement every single thing. Kind of take it on a use a pragmatic approach on like, okay, these ones are the important things for us. So like, let's focus on these first, and then after you've got that, then maybe you can review or revisit the standard, and then look to see, okay, like maybe things have changed and now these are applicable, or and yeah, just don't try to do like everything at once. I mean, take it slowly.
I think that's really great advice. And I also saw that we have a little link here at the bottom of the slide with more information. Elliot, give us a sense of like what's next here. Are we expecting version 0.02 at some point soon? What's your vision for this going forward?
Yep. So, I mean, I think at this stage, the most important thing that we want to get is kind of feedback from the wider AI and community. So, please have a look at this, provide your comments, let us know kind of how this may work at your organization, or what may not work. And then we'll build this in, and feel free to contribute to the project. We want to get more people involved, and kind of just, yeah, have this as a organically growing community project.
That's awesome. In terms of like how to just very concretely, I guess, contribute to this, I go to the GitHub and then submit my comments through pull requests here. Is that your preferred way of contribution?
Yep. So pull request issues, yeah, these are kind of the way that we will be working, and yeah, we look forward to yeah, hopefully getting some more involvement in this and improving it, because it's not perfect at the moment. And I mean, like, we are predominantly security professionals with some AI experience, and there may be some things that we've missed, maybe some things we need to revisit and improve. And just yeah, keep driving it and improving it.
That's fantastic. Well, guys, before we move on to a bit of an audience Q&A here, I do have a slide that I put in here. I have, two of the people here that, are really working at the forefront of all things AI security. So I just wanted to zoom out for a second and spend maybe 1 or 2 minutes talking about how you see sort of the AI security and sort of general threat landscape evolve as companies are integrating more and more of these applications. What are the things that we should think about? What are the things that we should expect and look out for, really from an implementation standpoint, as the space matures and evolves over the next months? Any thoughts and perspectives on this?
I just I answered one. Well, I tried to answer a question in the Q&A, which I hope was helpful. But the question was around whether automated approaches are good for red teaming AI applications. I definitely think it's a dual stack approach. In my answer, I kind of said that a lot of these times, most commonly from what I've seen personally, a lot of these are stemming as downstream events. So something like, prompt injection into cross-site scripting, or like a classic broken function level authorization, or even broken authentication. So I think like human in the loop is a huge step. We've had like a traditional gap when we're seeing generative AI applications and LLM applications come in, because a lot of these companies that are building now, where we have like machine learning engineers who are building web apps and hosting LLMs, whereas we've predominantly, from like an OWASP point of view, we've mainly been targeting just application developers. So there's definitely an overlap, and space to collaborate in there, for sure. But I would definitely say it's a dual stack approach, because when we're dealing with stuff like prompt injection, it's natural free flowing text, it's unstructured. Buzzing, this doesn't give enough context and it's not really scalable. So there's definitely a twofold process to that. There's a great amount of tools you can use, but I would say that when you're using the tool, look at the use case that you're actually trying to do, whether it's something like model serialization or something like that. If something goes a long way into threat modeling and footprinting reconnaissance about your application, and just gaining enough context, because both of these lists together still aren't enough or should be limited for you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, Elliot. Anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that I think is quite interesting and that we need to make sure we do is also just to kind of not forget about the kind of classic security landscape when we build the LLM applications. So like, we've also, some of the research we've been doing, we've been looking at various agent and plugin based ecosystems, and within many of these frameworks that we've looked at, we've found kind of classical vulnerabilities that allow you to get complete remote code execution when you're have a prompt injection, for example. And these things become quite powerful when you can just send an email into a system, or like take some human text, and then this can lead to a complete RCE against multiple servers. And this is something that I think we'll be touching on soon in a joint blog post that should be coming out fairly soon.
Looking forward to that. Fantastic. Well, turning to some of the amazing audience questions that we've received over the last couple of minutes. The first one here, I believe, Elliot, is probably for you. Anonymous question from the audience was, do the LLM-SVS domains work as risk management categories, or is that too much of a shortcut? So I believe we are going back to what we had here as an example. What would be your thoughts on that?
So I would be inclined to say that this is kind of too much of a shortcut. I mean, this is more of a standard for kind of helping developers just build the kind of secure application that is powered by LLMs. But I wouldn't say it's kind of a substitute for doing kind of proper risk management processes. And actually, I think in order to kind of really understand which categories and which requirements are relevant to you and which level to properly apply, I mean, you're going to want to have a proper risk management, uh, a risk review of the application done first. And this will really help you then get the best out of the LLM-SVS.
Fantastic. And then there's a question from Conrad, I believe also as a follow-up to you, Elliot, quite directly. Are there plans for a more deep dive webinars from OWASP or Snyk? Actually, it's probably targeted at both of you to learn about the current vulnerabilities, anything that could help one transition from penetration testing to more of an AI security role. Maybe quick thoughts on that from both of you.
I'm actually going to use this opportunity so there's, especially in our project, we actually have, so we have a wiki, and in there we kind of try and keep up to date documentation. There's a bunch of CTFs in there. Like when you're starting traditional application security or any kind of pen testing, if that's what where you wanted to go in your career or just upskill, those are great methods. So Gandalf, for example, is one. There's also another one, which is Crucible from Dreadnode. There's some on GitHub, which are open source. I would definitely start with those because obviously they're, self-paced. You can do them in your own leisure and things like that. But from the OWASP perspective, we don't have anything planned, although we are trying to, maybe host CTFs and things of that matter. As well as obviously being at RSA, if you're able to attend, that would be awesome to see you. But it's a great call. I think just utilizing the current CTFs, and it's definitely on our roadmap. I brought it with our group because it would be awesome to do that.
Fantastic. There's a question from Stepan that I think we could probably discuss for quite some time now. But maybe we can get some quick thoughts here. Question is, do you agree that effective security monitoring and threat detection should be at least as sophisticated as the underlying AI system? Or is there a way to do this better, faster, and cheaper? It seems like AI-based threat detection systems outperform other methods, which means added cost on top of real usage cost. Any thoughts on that?
I think as long as it's used in the correct context, again, a lot of it requires contextual. If you're using something like a SIEM, or you've built your own SIEM, for example, and you're looking to correlate, then generative, like predictive AI is fantastic for that. But again, it really does rely on you setting context and you setting up that. It's a great call. Let's read the question again.
Well, I think I've got a pretty obvious and strong answer or opinion here, at least, is in that these systems should probably be better, faster, and cheaper for all the reasons. And happy to share some more insights around this from a Lakera perspective as well. We do take a pretty strong stance, obviously, that this needs to happen at an application level, which makes all the difference in terms of security. Maybe the last question for you, Elliot, here. How different is the LLM-SVS to other industry standards, such as the Google SAFE framework that came out, I believe, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, so I mean, I think kind of the main thing here is that with the LLM-SVS, I mean, it's predominantly targeted at making kind of security requirements for engineers and pen testers and security professionals to be able to easily kind of set those user stories for when they're implementing specific features and kind of provide a comprehensive checklist that they can refer back to. So I mean, I think the other frameworks kind of set a lot of more of the kind of background information, whereas the LLM-SVS is kind of more something that is like going to be part, like a living part of the project, kind of. So set those requirements and kind of be a reference point when doing certain specific activities.
All right. Well, I believe this brings us almost to the end of this webinar. So already at this point, thank you so much for everyone attending. We had close to 1,000 signups today, with many people attending from all over the world. A couple of sort of parting resources here, and these are conveniently put on here for you to take note of. Some of our very own Gen AI security resources, which we recommend checking out. We had some questions around how to transition into more of an AI security role, so these definitely provide a good starting point. And then on the right-hand side here, we also have more information about the OWASP top 10 for LLM applications V2. Again, thank you, Ads, for all the work on that, and also Elliot, your work on the SVS side of things and insights shared today. And then to leave you with a thought here, we at Lakera help enterprises deploy Gen AI securely. So if you are deploying Gen AI to production right now, feel free to schedule some time with our team over the next couple of days and weeks. We would love to hear from you and help you bring your Gen AI applications to life, and also shed some more light around the topics that we discussed today. So with that, Ads, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you at RSA in a couple of weeks. Elliot, are you going to join us at RSA this year?
And probably not, unfortunately.
We will make sure we get a chance to catch up elsewhere. Thank you so much for your contributions. Thanks as always for being awesome and for the work that you're doing. And looking forward to a V2, not only of the OWASP top 10, but also maybe of this webinar. So see you guys soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.